What's up, guys? Farmar here. I'm going to go over 8.2 Feral with you. I'm going to go over everything you need to know up until the raid comes out, okay? I'm going to be going over talents with you, Azerite gear, essences. I'm going to go over the single target rotation, the multi-target rotation, everything you need to know to play Feral to your best ability, all right? When the new essences come out after the raid and after the PvP and Mythic Plus seasons come out, then we will cover those essences as I get to play with them a little bit more. Okay, I got to do a little bit of PTR testing with them, but I want to bring you guys the most relevant information. So here we go. Let's get started. So for PvE, okay, rotation wise, we're pretty much having the same talents as last time, okay? In this top tier, you're going to want Sabretooth. Sabretooth is super important. Ferocious Bite is always going to be your number one damage. This is a flat 20% damage increase on it, as well as refreshing your rip every single time you use it. So the only thing that you have to do if you take this talent, the only thing you have to worry about is snapshotting your very first rip on your opener, and then you're solid, you're good. Ferocious Bite will carry you throughout the way. It's going to be the only finisher basically that you use the rest of the fight, okay? Second row here, all right? This is personal preference. Mythic Plus, Renewal, and Wild Charge are both good for getting out of sticky situations. Tiger Dash is also good, but it's a longer cooldown than Wild Charge, so I don't find it as good for a mobility option. Plus, it gets rid of your dash, right? So you give up your 2-minute dash and a Wild Charge on 15-second cooldown for a 45-second cooldown. It's good for an emergency, but in a PvE situation, wouldn't worry about it. All right, third tier. Once again, basically personal preference. Balance Affinity is going to give you more damage and more range on your Brutal Slashes and on your Thrashes, which is your AOE abilities. You also get 3 yards range on your melee abilities, so if you find yourself having trouble positioning or getting in close quarters with the bosses or anything like that, Balance Affinity is going to be the affinity for you. Okay, if you're a Feral Druid that likes to have a clutch moment and you don't completely rely on your tank, right? Guardian Affinity is very good for being able to tank a boss for a moment or two. Okay, if you pop Guardian Affinity, you go into bear form, you pop a taunt on the boss, right? You put up a Survival Instinct, you can tank it for probably 6 seconds, 12 seconds if you have both of your Survival Instincts. So also a very crucial affinity to have. This is for playmakers and people that want to be there in emergency situations. Restoration Affinity is basically just good for Ysera's Gift. Okay, when you're in Mythic Plus, it's very good because it's going to keep your whole team alive. It's going to help with the bursting. It's going to help with the volcanics, the explosive, etc. It's going to give your team a little bit extra edge. Okay, one thing I will note is Balance Affinity. Because it gives you bonus range on your AoE, it's going to give you the most DPS output, technically speaking. So if you're pretty confident in your tank, right, you don't need to run Guardian Affinity. If you're pretty confident in your healer, don't worry about Resto Affinity. Take Balance Affinity, pump out the most DPS that you can. Another thing that I will note with Balance Affinity is it does increase the range of your Azerite abilities. So for Blood of the Enemy, right, when you pop this, it's normally a 12-yard range. It's going to be a 15-yard range with Balance Affinity. Very important. With Crucible of Flame, it'll also increase the range by 3 yards. So it's not much, but sometimes it's what you need. All right, next tier is going to be Mighty Bash, Mass Entanglement, Typhoon. All right. Most of the time in a PvP situation, you're going to take Typhoon. Mythic Plus, you want to take Typhoon. There's a few dungeons where you'll want to take Mass Entanglement, but primarily it's going to be Typhoon, and that's so your tank can kite away, especially during Necrotic Week, right? You don't want your tank getting all those stacks, so Typhoon is going to be the clutch moment, okay? So use this to help your team kite. Mass Entanglement is going to be very clutch in dungeons like Shrine of the Storms, or most notably the first boss in King's Rest, right? So Mass Entanglement has its place in PvP or PvE. Typhoon also has its place. Both of them are good for making plays. It's really what does your team need. If your team doesn't need knockbacks, take the Mass Entanglement. Okay, Mighty Bash is good for interrupting. It's a really long cooldown. It's only a single target stun. Not that effective in PvE. So I would say most of the time in PvE, you're going to stay away from Mighty Bash and you're going to take one of these two. Next tier is you got Soul of the Forest, Savage Roar, and Incarn. In PvE, You are basically going to always take Soul of the Forest. You're never going to diverge away from Soul of the Forest. Okay? Soul of the Forest gives you incredible damage, gives you incredible energy regen, and it gives you consistency because not only does it give you back, half of your energy that you spend on a ferocious bite, and allow you to use a rake right immediately after. It's also going to give 5% increased damage to your finishers, including your ferocious bite, which is going to be your number one damage dealer, which is why we're also taking Sabretooth. So with these two talents, your ferocious bite is going to be doing 25% extra damage. It's pretty huge. Okay. Now, next tier, okay, we've got Brutal Slash, Primal Wrath, and then, this ability right here. Don't worry about this ability. I've tested it a few times. It's not performing very well, so don't even think about it. Mythic Plus, you're going to want to take Primal Wrath pretty much every single dungeon. The only dungeons that you don't want to take Primal Wrath in are going to be dungeons like King's Rest. There's another one, Siege of Borealis. So, Siege of Borealis and King's Rest, they do not have many mobs in them, so Primal Wrath you're not going to get as much, you're not going to get as much damage out of. There's also affixes that are going to increase your output between Brutal Slash and Primal Wrath. If it's a teaming week, you're pretty much always going to take Primal Wrath because there's going to be more mobs, more damage. Until the next season comes out, Primal Wrath is probably the way to go as well for reaping. If you're running with two AoE DPSers, right, like a combat rogue or Unholy Decay or an Ellie Shaman, anything that's going to kill the reaping very fast, just take Brutal Slash. You're going to get the most output of it. You're not going to keep up with them on the reapings, but it's okay. It's still going to do a lot. Another thing, Brutal Slash is going to be better for affixes like Tyrannical, where the boss has extra health and you need extra single target damage. Brutal Slash is still very effective for AoE, so you're not losing that much on AoE. If it's teaming, Primal Wrath. If it's Tyrannical, Brutal Slash. That's basically the layout there. All right, last tier. We've got mostly Blood Talents and Moment of Clarity. Feral Frenzy is not very good, not very effective in PvE. It's good in short stints, short PvE burst situations, but in most situations you're going to want to take either Moment of Clarity or Blood Talons. I usually opt to take Blood Talons. Moment of Clarity is very good if you have triple Wild Fleshrending as your Azerite traits, but most of the time you're not going to have the perfect Azerite traits. Blood Talons has the most output outside of that. So, Blood Talons is the way to go. Also, this allows you to, once again, enhance your Ferocious Bite. With this build, we've already got 25% additional damage on our Ferocious Bites, 20% with Sabretooth, 5% with Soul of the Forest. When you've got Blood Talons, okay, that's an extra 25%. You should be able to use every single one. Every single one of your Blood Talons on a Ferocious Bite. Every single one. Do not skip any of them. This is huge DPS loss if you do not get it, and it's huge DPS gain if you do get it. So this is something that a lot of people fumble with. They're like, what do I use my Blood Talons on? Alright, priority of Blood Talons. You want to use it on your Ferocious Bites every single time. Then you want to use Blood Talons on Rakes. You want to make sure you snapshot every one of your Rakes that you can. After Rake, your next priority is going to be your Brutal Slash. One of those three, you're going to be using a Blood Talons on. You should not use your Blood Talons basically on anything else. So those three are going to be the primary damage dealers, and that's what you need to focus on. PvP talents, we'll go over in another video. I'm going to cover PvP in another video. I'm still playing around with it. I just got a new essence that we're going to have some fun with. So if you want to see that experimentation, feel free to tune into the stream. All right, Azerite gear. So our Azerite pieces haven't really changed a whole lot. And they added a few mid-tier stuff here and there. I went over in my last video that you can kind of take to enhance your raid, and give some team utility. We're going to, in this video, focus on what you need to do the most damage, and assume that you're in a pug, or maybe your raid team doesn't really care about those Azerite traits, or they're underperforming or something. Those are going to have to be tested as the raids come out, so I'll release a new video on that if we determine that there's better output with those. So let's go over the current Azerite traits. Okay, Treacherous Covenant is basically going away. Currently speaking, it's still one of the best performers though. Your best performing traits are going to be Jungle Fury, right? So this one here, if I can Click. Jungle Fury. Okay, so whenever you pop your Tiger's Fury, you're going to get a 12-second buff, and that buff is going to give you an insane amount of crit. If you didn't know, and I can go over this actually in the next section. I should have went over it before. Whatever. Anyways, Jungle Fury is going to give you an enormous amount of crit. On a 420 piece of gear, one Jungle Fury gives you about 7 to 8% crit, which is huge. And then after Treacherous Covenant and Jungle Fury, you have Wild Fleshrending. Wild Fleshrending is probably the second, I believe it is the second best feral Azerite trait to have a single one of. Okay. So make sure that if you have one Wild Fleshrending, you're still fine. Ensure that when you do run Wild Fleshrending, you are keeping up Thrash. That's something that's not in the normal rotation, so you need to make sure that you keep your Thrashes up in order to enhance your Brutal Slash and your Shred damage on your target. Okay, so right now you can see I'm running the 3 of the best traits for Feral Druids. I'm running triple Jungle Fury for that extra critical strike and burst windows with my Tiger's Fury. I'm running 2 Treacherous Covenants, which is giving me extra agility. It gives me about 832 right now, main stat. And then lastly, we've got 1 single piece of Wild Fleshrending. Some other alternate combinations. If you are listening here and you want to take notes, I'm going to go over a few combinations that you can currently run and enhance later, depending on the new Azerite traits, and see if they are, basically going to replace Treacherous Covenant or not. Okay, so you can run triple Jungle Fury with triple Wild Fleshrending. Another good build, not as good as that one, is going to be triple Jungle Fury with triple Iron Jaws, which is the MAME trait. You never want to run 1 or 2 of those. If you're going to run any Iron Jaws, you want to make sure that you run 3. This will make your MAME's crit for like 200k. It's actually ridiculous. It's only slightly worse than the Wild Fleshrending and Jungle Fury builds. So if you really want to spice up your rotation, it's pretty cool. It also it synergizes very well with Soul of the Forest as well, because whenever you use it, right, you don't have to pull your energy for your Ferocious Bite, and then you just pop it, and then you get all the energy that you spent on your MAME back immediately. So it's very nice. Those are probably the main combinations that are still relevant after this patch. Treacherous Covenant with the triple Jungle Fury and 1 Wild Fleshrending is also an option. And if you don't have a single Wild Fleshrending and you have a single Blood Mist is going to be the next option after the Wild Fleshrending. So anyways, I will try and list those down below the video in case I spoke too fast, but that's roughly what you want to aim for with the Azerite traits. Alright, next, I was going to go over stat priority, because I forgot to do that earlier. So, stat priority for Feral Druids basically hasn't changed, okay? In 8.1, or 8.1.5, it actually shifted our main stat, or our secondary stat, from being haste priority to critical strike and mastery, because of the mastery change to Feral Druids. So now, instead of our mastery just enhancing our bleed damage, our mastery now enhances all of our finishing moves, including our bleeds. So mastery has turned out to be a very huge secondary stat for Feral Druids. Anyways, with this, in PvE, I'll go over PvP in another video. PvE, your main stats are going to be critical strike is equal to mastery. And then after that, you've got haste, and then you've got versatility. Haste is only good up to about 10%, and then you want to just go versatility if you have the option, okay? Haste is not amazing. It's going to give you a little bit of energy regen, and it's going to increase the tick rate of your bleeds. So, all right, next, essences. Okay, so like I said, I'm only going to be going over the things that I have been able to test so far in this video, or in this patch thus far. If you've been following the stream, you know I've been farming up Blood of the Enemy. We'll go over that one last, because I do think it's going to be the best in slot for PvE ferals. Crucible of Flame. This is going to be the Azerite trait that you start with. It's actually a really good feeling Azerite trait. I think that having the extra ability on your bar every 30 seconds feels pretty nice. You can time it with all of your Jungle Fury, or your Tiger Fury / Jungle Furies, which basically makes it always crit, which is really nice. And then after you've used it a couple times, it's going to deal additional damage as you gain stacks. So it goes up to 2 stacks. At 2 stacks, it does 200% extra damage, and it's a 40-yard range, 43 yards with Boomkin. So It's pretty nice. I think that it's not the best, but in terms of all the rank 1 essences, this is not saying you have Blood Enemy rank 2 or rank 3. All the rank 1 essences, I think Crucible of Flame is maybe the best. Maybe the best. So if you have all 4 of these and you are running, one of these, make sure that you're running Crucible of Flame, because if you're using Crucible on the Flame, it's going to be about a 4% to a 5% DPS increase. Blood of the Enemy is good at rank 1, but I do think that Crucible of Flame pulls ahead at rank 1. Next, we've got Ripple in Space. This one is not very good in PvE situations. It's not horrible, but it's not very good. I use this mostly for just PvP shenanigans, jumping around, kind of teleporting back and forth, kiting people away, and then teleporting way behind them, things like that. So Ripple in Space, probably don't worry about it. It might be good at later ranks, but first impressions and me playing with it, I haven't seen anything amazing from it. All right, Memory of Lucid Dreams. So this is going to be a really good one, okay? So this one, something that you want to do with it is you do not want to use it with your Berserk / Incarn. If you're running Incarn or if you're running Berserk, you do not want to pop this at the same time. If you do, there's no way in hell you're ever going to spend all of your energy. And if you know anything about feral druids, it is that you need to use all of your energy to the most efficiency possible. You do never want to be capped on energy, and you do never want to be zeroed out on energy. So make sure that if you are using Lucid Dreams, that you are doing just that. Another thing, Lucid Dreams is gonna make Soul of the Forest feel, it's gonna feel like you are just unable to spend all your energy. In this case, Incarn might be better to switch out if you're gonna run Lucid Dreams, because Lucid Dreams does have a chance to refund 50% of your energy. So I have not done the numbers on this, but if you're a feral druid that enjoys running Incarn, I would say if you run Incarn in PvE, run it with Lucid Dreams. This will give you kind of the stacking that you need. Obviously, you do not play these at the same time. You want to make sure you stagger them, preferably when you have a Jungle Fury or a Tiger's Fury. So basically, you use Incarn, then you use Tiger's Fury. You use Lucid Dreams, then you use Tiger's Fury. Okay, keep them spaced out about 30-second range. Okay. Otherwise, Soul of the Forest with Lucid Dreams is insane energy regen. So also a very good essence that feels very good. Lastly, but not least, is Blood of the Enemy. So these are the 4 Azerite traits that you can unlock right now as a feral druid until Season 3 comes out. Blood of the Enemy, I think, is going to be Biss at rank 3. Rank 1, it feels okay. I would take Crucible of Flames over it. Rank 2 is when it lowers the cooldown of it from 2 minutes to 1.5 minutes, and it feels really good. Also, you get this bonus here that you can see at the bottom with the minor power, where you get critical strike for each stack. So that happens at rank 2 as well. So Blood of the Enemy at rank 2, I think, is going to be your Biss. I recommend that you farm BGs as fast as possible, because this is going to be the go-to when the raid tier comes out, and maybe for the rest of the expansion. We'll see. So anyways, Blood of the Enemy, basically what it does is it gives you a 1.5 minute cooldown on it. You use it, it hits everything around you in an AoE fashion, about 20k damage, non-crit. And then every target that you got that debuff on is going to give you 25% additional critical strike chance. If you have rank 3, not only will it do that, but it'll increase your critical strike damage by 25% for 5 seconds, which is huge. So if you're running Blood of the Enemy and you have rank 3, this is the way to go. Another thing, Blood of the Enemy, you do have to farm BGs to get to it. Lucid Dreams, I think, is the option for anybody that does not want to worry about PvP. If you want to just do PvE, I think Lucid Dreams is going to be the choice for you. So don't fret if you don't want to do BGs. Lucid Dreams, I think, is just going to be as viable. So there you go. Alright, so next we'll go ahead and go over the PvE single target rotation. So once again, I went over the talents: Sabretooth, Soul of the Forest, Brutal Slash, and Blood Talons. Okay, for your PvE rotation, what you want to do is you're going to want to open with a regrowth, okay? So before the fight starts, you want to regrowth, get your 30 seconds on your blood talons, okay? Then cat form, okay, obviously. Then you're going to pop any on-use trinket you have. I have the Insidious Gift, so I'm going to pop that with with an agility potion, okay? I'm going to pop that together, and then I'm going to go stealth. Then I'm going to berserk into a Tiger's Fury, into a Rake, into a Rip, into a Thrash because I'm running Wild Fleshrending, Brutal Slash, and then Ferocious Bite. So I'll do it here for you guys, including my Blood of the Enemy proc for you, which is going to be after or right before I do my very first Ferocious Bite. So we'll go ahead and run through it here. Up here in the top left corner of my screen, you can see my global cooldowns that I'm using. This will help you if you want to rewind the video and kind of go over that. There you go. I can't really do the rotation in slow motion, otherwise I'll miss out on my rips. So anyways, here we go. So you want to go ahead and you want to open with your potion and your trinket into stealth, berserk, and then you're going to pop the Tiger's Fury, Thrash, and your Brutal Slash, pop your Blood of the Enemy, do a Ferocious Bite. Then you're going to just basically shred your way to victory, okay? So you can see here I'm about to run out of a Thrash. You do not have to worry about your Thrash if it is going to be one of the last combo points that you use, right? Because once it's one of the last combo points you use, you're either going to use a Rake, right? And make sure that you're snapshotting all of your Rakes with your Tiger's Fury and your Blood Talons. And then what I was saying with the Thrash is if it's your last 4, if you're on 4 combo points, right? Notice how I got that Tiger's Fury Rake there, okay? Right here, my Thrash is running out. I don't care, because Thrash, all it does is it increases the damage of my Brutal Slash and my Shreds, right? But if I'm not going to be using a Shred the very next global, it's not a priority to use, okay? It can fall off as long as you are not wasting the damage that you could potentially gain from it, right? So right here, it's about to fall off. I'm actually going to pool my energy before I refresh it, okay? So it's very important to be very patient with your energy when it comes to Thrashes, okay? Right here, I'm running into a sticky situation, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and get that 5th combo point so that I don't have to worry about losing my damage with my Thrash falling off. I'll do the Ferocious Bite, I'll refresh my Rake, and then I'll put my Thrash up because the very next thing I'm going to be using is Brutal Slash or Shred. Okay, so you guys see how I do that? Make sure that every single snapshot you can is going to be on a Rake and a Ferocious Bite. If you're not going to be snapshotting a Rake or a Ferocious Bite, make sure that you are snapshotting your Brutal Slash. Okay, I've got a clear casting, so I want to use that on Thrash if possible. Notice how I kind of pooled my energy there. Feels good. Another thing, if you get a clear casting proc, okay, this is very important. If you get a clear casting proc, don't waste a Brutal Slash into it if you can help it. Because Brutal Slash costs 25 energy. Shred costs 40 energy. It's way more. So even if you have a Blood Talons on it, I find it more useful to use that energy, to use that clear casting proc on the Shred. It's going to cost way more energy. You're going to be the most efficient with your energy as possible. And that's basically how you want to do it. Okay? So if there's anything that I left out in that, please feel free to let me know in the comments. I feel like I actually did a really good breakdown of that, so hopefully you guys enjoyed it. All right, next I'm going to go over the AOE rotation, so we'll go ahead and do that over here on these dummies. So for the AOE rotation, okay, you're going to run Primal Wrath, okay? I'll go over the Primal Wrath AOE rotation, and then I'll go over the Brutal Slash AOE rotation, just to kind of help you guys out a little bit. Because there are situations, like I said, in King's Rest or Siege of Bralis, where you're going to want to take Brutal Slash, right? You're not always going to have Primal Wrath to clutch on, right? So let's go ahead and do this, okay? Assume you're going to be opening on, you know, some AoE mob that matters a lot, all right? Remember, on-use trinket, always in the stealth, always in the berserk, always in the Tiger's Fury, okay? In this case, I had 3 combo points. Sometimes it's going to happen. Very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my rakes up on everything, okay? Then I'm going to wait here, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to refresh this rip, alright? Last thing I have to do is get this rip on this target. Notice how I am keeping all of my dots on all 3 of these targets at once, okay? This is called dot juggling. Actually, I just made that term up, but we'll call it for that from now on. So basically, you want to just keep doing this. You want to keep all of your things up. I accidentally let that rip fall off, so I have to put it back up immediately, right? And then we'll go ahead. I'm going to use my oscillation here, even though that wasn't the perfect timing. Okay, now let's say it's reaping. Okay, the very first thing you're going to do in reaping is you're going to thrash, then you're going to blood of the enemy, and you're going to primal wrath. Okay, so this is big damage. This is you are ready to go to town. Okay, it's huge. So make sure, basically what you want to do is make sure that you keep your rips and your rakes on every target. Still very important that you are snapshotting your rakes. Okay, you need to snapshot every single rake that you can. It's a huge DPS increase. Rake is your second highest damage to shred. Sorry, it is your highest combo point generating ability. Okay. And then, okay, next we'll go over Brutal Slash. We'll go over the AOE rotation with Brutal Slash. This is also a pretty straightforward rotation. You always want to open with your regrowth, okay? Make sure you use your on-use trinket into your potion. Then you're going to stealth immediately after. You're going to berserk. I don't have berserk in this case. And then you're going to pop Tiger's Fury, okay? So with this one, all right, notice how I used that snapshot on that thrash. That was bad. Don't do that. Once you get your bleeds up on all your targets, okay, then you're going to start juggling your bleeds, okay? So I'm refreshing my rips. So this one fell off. It's a little bit harder because you have to be a little bit more manual with your rotation, which is fine. Sometimes it's going to take that. So make sure that you keep your rakes up. Your rake is the most important thing. Don't let your rake fall, okay? Sometimes you may have to, sacrifice a few combo points on your Ferocious Bite, just like I did there, to keep your rip up. But the most important thing is that you keep your rakes up on everything, okay? That's going to be the easiest thing to do, and it's also one of the most effective ways to actually do the most damage in an AoE situation as a Feral Druid. So, don't be afraid of it. Alright? So, that's basically that. Yeah, alright, so I'm going to go ahead and give my thoughts on what I think about 8.2 Feral Druid right now, and and where I think it's going to be, once everything rolls out. Right now, I think Feral Druid's got some of the most benefit from the essences out of any class, other than Fire Mages. Fire Mages with Lucid Dreams is just broken from what I'm hearing. But with rank 3 Blood of the Enemy, Feral Druid damage is really high. So if you are wanting to play Feral, right, if you're wanting to come back and play Feral, I say farm the crap out of this essence and get it. It is highly worth it, okay? If you don't want this one, Lucid Dreams is going to be there for you. Lucid Dreams, make sure you stagger with your other cooldowns, your Berserk or your Incarn, and go at it. But yeah, I think that Feral right now feels really good. I still really wish that Blizzard would buff Savage Roar and buff Lunar Inspiration so that we aren't pigeonholed into taking passive talents. I do not like that passive talents are doing more damage output than our on-use talents. It really simplifies the rotation, which might be good for new players, but I wish that, the higher skill cap Ferals could take a little bit more risky, a little bit more rewarding build in the Lunar Inspiration Savage Roar mixture. Anyways, if you disagree with anything that I said, feel free to leave a comment below. If you liked everything that I said and it helped you out, please drop a follow or a subscription on YouTube and a follow on Twitch, and come say hey in my stream. I love answering Feral questions. 8.2 I think is going to be a really good, really fun patch for Feral Druids, especially with the new essences. They feel amazing. It's nice having another ability on our bar. And yeah, anyone else, Cool Cats, thank you guys for all your support, and feel free to come say hey. Have a good one, guys, and I'll see you in 8.2.